Today our project is going to be building this beautiful display frame for these moccasins. Hello everyone, Colin Canet here for WoodWorkWeb. These moccasins were left to me by my father who passed away a number of years ago, and I've always wanted to display them, and I really don't know that much about them. I know that they're about 70 years old, and I think they might be Assiniboine or maybe Lakota, but maybe one of our viewers can enlighten me a little bit. But at any rate, I've always wanted to display them in a nice case, and so today, this is the project that we're going to be making. Okay, so let's get started on this build. On the blackboard, I have a cross-section of what the frames are going to look like, and I've used some scrap just to give you a bit of an idea what that's going to look like. Okay, I have my ripping blade in. I just need to set the height now. And we always set the height of the blade to a 1/2 or 1/4 tooth above the material. That's good. And we're ready to get started. Now I'm going to cut the rabbit, but I'm going to have to remove the blade guard because it'll be too close to the fence. Now I'm setting the blade height at 2 3/4 inches, and I'm using one of these marking bars to set my depth of cut, and that's going to be 3/8 of an inch. Now you can see the cut that I made, and what I want to do now is I'm going to make another cut straight up here, and this piece of wood will just fall right away, and that will leave me with an L-shaped, that'll be the framing material that I'm going to use. So there's our frame material, and I've got both pieces cut. The next thing I need to do now, I need to accommodate the back somehow, and I'm just going to cut a little rabbit out of the back as well. So there's our raw frame material, and that's all ready to start cutting the sides now. Now the next thing to do is I need to set up the table saw to be cutting the miter cuts. So I'm just going to gang cut the sides now, and I'm only going to cut them roughly because when we go to the table saw we'll cut them accurately. So here's our blanks. There's the bottom and top, and there's the two sides. Now what we have here is a long board, and I've fastened it. Most miter gauges you can attach things to, and so I've attached this long straight board to my miter gauge, and this is the same as the video that we did on making picture frames. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I have this piece of wood that will move up and down here, and I will clamp that on here, and I've actually even gone ahead and made just some measuring sticks, and they're 45-degree angle on one side and flat at the other, and we will use those in that manner to be measuring the exact distances that we need. But the first thing I need to do is to crank the blade all the way up because in this case we're going to be using the blade right at the very top. And now I want to set this using this engineer's square. I want to set our angle here at exactly 45 degrees to the blade. I don't want to use this gauge on here. I want to use this. It's far more accurate. We'll put it on this way, like this, then we just flip it end for end, and we'll cut the final blank that way. So the first thing I'm going to do now is cut one end of each of these blanks. Okay, so there's one side of each board cut. Now we need to put our measuring block on and set up for cutting the exact distances. So we bring that right up there, just touch that right there and put a clamp on there. Now, what that guarantees is that when we put this in here like that, that's going to cut exactly the same length as this is. And that will give us two equal bottoms, a bottom and a top, exactly equal. Now we're going to make the same adjustment, but now we're going to use the longer stick, the longer measuring stick. Now I have my frame clamping device all set up, and let's do a dry fit now and see how this is going to work out. Now before we get gluing up, I wanted to show you what 23 gauge brads look like. They're just like little needles. They're that slim. Now I'm trying something different for glue. I've purchased something called Weld Bond, and I've used this ages ago, but this is a new formula, so we're going to try that. Now the way this clamping device works is you tighten up these screws in the middle and it draws everything down. There. Now I'm going to pin some of these tops here so they don't move on us. One corner, and that's what the splines look like. And what I need to do now is... Okay, I've got my little jig here for cutting thin strips, and this is my Purple Heart. I've got it set up here, so let's do a test cut. Okay, let's cut these into some strips and we'll start gluing those in. So there's our splines, and I just trimmed those into little pieces. So I'm going to carry on using this weld bond glue. It seems to be doing a good job. And a little bit on the stick on each side, and that's going to give a nice firm bond. There we go. So there's all our splines all glued in. Now what I need to do with my little draw saw is to go across and cut all of these off so that I can file them all flush. So there's our frame with the splines in the side. I'm just going to do a little bit of light sanding on the outside and on the top here, and we should be ready to start doing some finishing. Now I've finished sanding and I've used a tack cloth to take the dust off, and I'm ready to do finishing. And if any of you have been watching, you know that I've been a big fan of Osmo, and for some reason it's not available. They're not easily available to me anymore. So my distributor has recommended something called Seiko's, and he suggested I give it a try. And so today that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to try this new product. Now these finishes, we typically just use a little bit. We don't even pour it in there. I'm just using a little plastic container here, and there's about a tablespoon. And when applying these rub-on finishes like this is a waxy oil finish, you typically rub against the grain to start off with so that you get the material into all of the pores. And then when you've got it into all of the pores, then you rub with the grain. And okay, we've given our frame here 3 coats and it looks just fabulous. The next thing we need to do now is I have some ebony dye here, and I'm going to be dyeing the inside of the frame, and I also have the back here. We'll be dyeing the inside of the back as well. So let's go ahead and very carefully we will do that. Together. And there's the moccasins. I've put something in them to give them a little bit of depth, and I'm going to stagger them slightly on the back, and I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to use some of this double-sided tape that I have that really sticks well. Now I'm just going to put a couple of eyelets along the top here, and then we'll run some wire through them so we'll have some place to hang this. So there's our finished moccasin display, and it's got the hanging wire on the back, and it's all ready to go on the wall. And there will be an associated article that goes along with this, and you'll find the link for that right underneath this video. If you're new to us, we ask you to subscribe to our channel, and we ask you to follow us on Facebook. No, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. I'm Colin Canet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.